welcome back or welcome into the channel. It's me, the Juliabee. How are you? How are you doing today? Is 2025 living up to your expectations? I hope it is, because it's only like day 2. So hopefully it's a good day 2. We are here to talk about my worst books of the year. And as like the last video, which was my best books of the year, I am including 2023 because technically I was vlogging in 2023 and, then subsequently 2024. I just didn't put anything up on the channel because chaos reigns. Did read 200 something books in 2023 and I only read 75 books last year.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, out of those 2 years, I don't have many books that were like the worst. I'm sure I could find more if I really thought about them, but I tried to keep the list pretty small to like books that genuinely I still think about that have just icked me out. So I've combined the 2 years, but also this is my worst books, but also my most like disappointing books, because again, some of them weren't like the worst, but I had a lot of disappointments. I'm gonna be really honest. I had a lot of disappointments in 2023. Well, more in 2024 than 2023 because I had a lot of anticipated releases. So without further ado, let's get into it. So again, like the last video, I do not have a tier ranking for like what would be the worst book or the most disappointing book. They're just kind of in a random order. And we are going to just start with the one that I just recently finished, which is probably a surprise to most people, but it is The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. Yeah, no one is more shocked than me. This is a follow-up to the duology, which was The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is following Misha, and Misha is Rain's best friend, who was with Araya and them in the first 2 books, and was like the sunny little like golden speck of sunshine best friend who was tagging along for the ride. This book is about her and her backstory, and when I tell you, this wasn't it. This was a miss. I'm so disappointed because Misha, I was really looking forward to her book because the duology is just Araya and Rain and then it ends. I don't know if they will come back in subsequent books. I don't think Carissa has said, but this is supposed to be a duology following Misha. So there's going to be one more book in this little section of story. First off, we weren't going to talk about how, even though I have the special editions, the original editions of these books, they are taller than this one.
Bruh.
Why? Why do publishers do that? It's so fucking annoying. So this is following Misha as she is trying to discover why she lost her magic, basically, because she does have magical abilities that I think that are gifted to her by a god. Turned into a vampire when she was very young. So she lost her home, she lost her humanity, and she had devoted her life to the sun god, and he is who bestowed to her her fire abilities. And basically all of the work she and her sister did was in the name of the sun god. And she was chosen by the sun god from a very young age and then became his bride. I think she was like 5 when he chose her. And then when, of course, she comes of age, which I think is only at 16, she weds him.
This whole thing is disgusting.
So in the second book, she murders the heir. She murders her creator, I was going to say source. She murders the one who created her, and he is an heir to another vampire throne. So she goes into hiding basically without telling Araya and Rain any of this. And what happens is she's captured, because obviously she's captured. Here's the thing. What I immediately did not like about this book is the fact that she is immediately captured. There is no segue into her being on the run. We're just told that she was on the run. We're just told she was on the run. We're told that she misses Rain and Araya, and we're just told that they captured her for some reason, which is because she killed the heir. Okay. They take her to meet the king as like a prize. Like, look who we caught. We caught the one who killed your son. And Asar, who I guess is like the other heir that no one talks about, comes and saves her. And then they go on this mission to resurrect the god of death, himself, which is Nyaxia's husband. Okay. She gets her powers back from the sun god because he's basically scorned her because she turned into a vampire. You know, sun, vampire, doesn't really fit. I might have to go back and reread this for multiple reasons, but here's the thing. I don't remember really anything that happened in this book, and the romantic connection between Asar and Misha doesn't make any fucking sense. I did not feel any connection between them. They don't speak really to each other at all. And I'm genuinely saying that. I think there were like 5 words spoken between the two of them, maybe 10, like a couple of orders and commands. There was never any like talking to each other, bonding. They're going through the 7, how many layers is it? They're going through the layers of the underworld, which here's the thing, it doesn't even matter. There's several layers of it. With different like trials and tribulations and like things that affect your senses. Like one of the layers is like the psyche layer that affects you. Here's the thing, none of that matters because I couldn't tell you what the fuck we were doing and why any of this was interesting. This is compared to like Dante's Inferno times something else, I forget. We get some like companions that come along with us. And I don't even really know why the fuck they were there because like they weren't there for very long. And you just want me to believe that her and Asar have a romantic connection? Okay. If it sounds like I don't know what this book was about and that I'm not explaining it well, it's because I genuinely read this and I had to just read the inside flap to remind myself what it was about. No one is more disappointed than me. Pacing? Pacing who? I don't even think I could call it pacing because I don't think we ever set up a starting point and an ending point. The only good thing about this book is that there's a skeletal dog. So there's that. All right, the next book we're going to talk about is also a disappointment, but also a worst book of the year. And that is just also a surprise, Leather and Lark by Bryn Weather. Listen, I was tabbing. I started to tab. Do you see this right here? This is when my fucking will to live died. This is when my soul just left my body. This is when I lost the will to care. Okay? This book was so anticipated for me. I was so hyped. I vlogged the hype. I literally chased my mailman down. Practically. I wrote, I'm so fucking ready. What did this say? Oh, for those of you who came here after the B&B ice cream and just read the L&L triggers and thought she's not serious about the pizza, right? Right? This one's for you. I was so fucking ready. I was ready to be gooped, gagged, choked, crushed, stepped on. I was ready for whatever Miss Weaver wanted to throw at me. Here's the thing. Who were these people? Who were these characters? When I tell you that she set up Lachlan and Lark as 2 completely different people in the first book than they were in this book, I'm not shitting you. Lachlan is described, this book is described as a grumpy sunshine, forced marriage, enemies to lovers trope. Every fucking box that I need to read a book, tick, 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 was all ticked. It was all ticked. Forced marriage. It's like, I discovered that in 2023. That's one of my like favorite tropes now. Love it. Love it so much. The first line, I was gagged. Okay, the first line. And this is my problem. These characters, Lachlan is supposed to be this like cold, calculating, fucking antisocial, psychopathic douchebag, okay? Lark is supposed to be this sweet little, like, fluffy bunny character who, you know, Sloane protects from her, like, serial killer ways. Like, she knows about it, obviously. But, like, she doesn't like to involve her, really. Then you open the book, and it says in the prologue, "This is called the consequences of your actions, sweetie," I say, as I unravel the fuse to the fireworks strapped between Andrew's thighs. His cries reach a fever pitch only to die in the tape strapped across his mouth. You wouldn't look at me and think it, but it's true. I love the sound of his distress. Lark's a little bit of a little crazy pants. She's a little psychopath. She's a serial deleter, as she calls herself. Here's the thing. This book was horrible from start to finish. There was no point in this where I had any hope of it being good. I had maybe the first line. Yeah, okay, maybe the prologue. But then after that, so this entire story is based off of a miscommunication in the first part of the book, which is that Lark is claustrophobic. And she tells you this, okay? Not why she's claustrophobic, but she does tell you that she is. And Lachlan, she does something where she like runs someone off the road on purpose. I don't think it was on accident. I think she killed someone on purpose because they were a shitty person. Calls her stepdad to like have someone come cover it up for her. And he's like, okay, yeah, whatever. So you get the sense that like this is a common occurrence. Well, Lachlan is the one who shows up. And he's just like a dick. He's just like a fucking douchebag, which is fine. Like, it kind of fit his character then. But what ends up happening is that her car is totaled. And so she can't drive back. So he's like, well, you're not going to sit up front with me. You're going to ride in the trunk.
I've never done anything like this before.
What? His like perception of her, when you get his POV, his perception of her is like she's some like yuppie girl who like, he describes it as she's like some yuppie girl who was like probably drinking and driving and doesn't understand the consequences of her actions and called daddy to clean up her mess. When we know as the reader that she did this on purpose because she's a serial killer. The problem that I immediately had was that it wasn't the fact that it was the miscommunication. It was the fact that I knew that Lark was claustrophobic. And instead of just saying that to Lachlan, she doesn't say anything. And it just goes from there. But then they meet a couple months later or something, and they immediately start flirting. And when I tell you, the way Lachlan acts when he meets Lark again, because they don't know it's like each other yet, the way he acts like this goofball, like this funny, charismatic guy. Lachlan Kane, the man who was described as a grumpy son of a bitch. In fact, I had to check the marketing, the tags for this book to make sure I wasn't a fucking idiot, because nowhere did I find that Lachlan was grumpy. In fact, I was like, is Lark the one that's grumpy and he's the one that's sunshine? Because this is not Grumpy Sunshine. I was so confused. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people have criticized Brynn Weaver's writing in the first book. And again, I'm not saying it's the most stellarly written thing, but this book was just not it. A lot of people hate the audiobook. I love these audiobooks. I do. I'm probably in the 1% that I love them. I love that they act out like their giggles and their sighs and their, oh my God, I love that shit. There's actually a section where Lark sings, because she's a singer-songwriter, which you would never tell because she only goes to practice like once in this book. The song is available to be downloaded on Spotify. I downloaded it. I listened to it a lot. I love it. And I love that the voice actor for the audiobook sang it. Loved it. Was amazing. I'm, again, in the 1% that I like the audiobook. So I understand. And I understand people who don't like it because it can be cringe. But like, I thought it was hot. Have I even told you what this book is about? No, because I really can't really tell you what it's about. Here's the problem. The way that Lark and Lachlan get into this marriage is so fucking stupid. It's because it has something to do with the fact that if Lark's family finds out that Lachlan is who he is, like an assassin for hire or something. So she marries him to protect him because her family is a big believer in like true love. And they have a rule. It almost reminds me of like the Breaking Dawn rule, where if you imprint on someone, you can't kill them.
Can't hurt her. Whoever a wolf imprints on can't be harmed.
It reminds me of that, where he cannot be harmed if she marries him and like proves that she loves him. it kind of ruined the whole trope for me, especially the way that she asked, because Sloane and Rowan, what is it? Is it at their bachelorette party or something? Sloane is trying to get Lachlan and Lark to like each other. And like, I get it. Sloane wants her best friend and her brother's, like her husband's brother, to get along. But like, she's just trying too hard. But then she even threatens Lachlan, like, if you hurt Lark, I'm going to kill you. And it's just like, what? I don't know. Like, oh, and Sloane doesn't know that Lark is a serial killer. So that's a whole thing. And they're supposed to be best friends. There's an interwoven, like, entity. I say entity. There's an interwoven antagonist in this book that's out to kill, I think, Sloane and Rowan, but also Lachlan and Lark, because Sloane and Rowan killed someone important to them. And then when you find out who this person is, I think when I vlogged this, I literally was like, you? It's you? Okay. Leather and Lark. Big disappointment. Okay, so apologies if it's like getting a bit darker. I might turn a light on here shortly, but I'm literally running against the sunlight right now, so might have to turn a light on here eventually. But the next book, we're just gonna keep going along the train of like the most disappointing, and then we'll get to the worst. That was the most disappointing. Comes with a bit of a caveat, as most of these books do, which is The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. Listen, I still have the bookmark in this book. And I was tabbing. Okay, this is about where I lost my will to live as well to tab. I wanted so badly, so desperately to love this book. And I just couldn't. I talk about it a lot in my reading vlog, but I do think I am going to go back, okay? Because I didn't finish this, so that I didn't even rate this. I am going to go back and start from the beginning.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
The only reason it's here is because I had to honorably or dishonorably mention it, because this book is bad. And why, you would ask yourself, why do you think you want to go reread it? Because I so desperately wanted to love it. Like, this is the thing. I can forgive so many things. I have said this before. I can forgive bad writing, bad characters, bad plot, bad smut. I can forgive so much if you give me something to love, if the vibes are immaculate, and if I'm having a good time. I was not having a good time. This book is about a society called the Lords. It's a dark college romance. And Riot, our main character, which is such a stupid name, but Riot, our main character, is part of the Lords cult. We're just going to call it a cult. Sect, whatever. Basically what it does is the Lords are these men who go through college just to get the piece of paper that says that they're smart. But then it gives them that piece of paper to be able to be assigned out in the world. So basically, like, say one of these men, he goes through college and then he can become a judge. Or someone else can go become, like, the president of the United States or something. Like, they inject these men into the government and, like, into society to basically take it over. So that way they always have connections with, like, each other and stuff like that. To rule the world, practically. That's basically what I got out of it. For their senior year, or once they pass their initiation and their reward for about to be graduating, they get a chosen. And the chosen is a woman who basically signs over her rights to be this man's fuck doll for the rest of the year.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Here's the thing, okay, about this. That all sounds god-awful on paper. But, like, if you're into that, that's why I was kind of intrigued. Nowhere in this, and this was my biggest problem, and I know it's dark romance, but nowhere in this were boundaries discussed. Because to me, even in dark romance, because it's called romance, okay, there need to be boundaries discussed. There has to be. Or else you were already just assuming that like the characters know each other's boundaries, which of course, whatever. But if we're going to assume that, I need to know that there are boundaries and I need to know that there is consent. And if you like non-consent or like dubious consent or non-con, do you know what I mean? If you like non-con, consensual non-con, then I need to know that you're into consensual non-con before I read that you get tied up and have your head shoved underwater and then you have to deep throat a man's cock with your hands behind your back. Dark romance is not for everyone. I really want it to be for me. But the problem is with this book, Blakely A is just a dumb bitch. And she, in particular, has a fantasy, which, good for her. Love that. We don't kink shame in this house. So once we got to that point, and I saw her and Riot discussing that is okay, that's awesome, that's valid, and you tell me your boundaries, your limits, and I will make that happen for you. I was like, okay, all right, cool. It took way too long to get to that point, but like, okay. And then the rest of the book is just the most graphic, deplorable sex I have ever read. There is no plot to this, I think, is the other problem. Like, literally all of these tabs, I think up until this point, I stopped at this point because I think this was the point I got to when Riot says that he wants to get Blakely pregnant so she can never leave him.
And speaking of red flags...
What? He fucks with her birth control so that she will get pregnant. I don't know about y'all, but that's icky. That's disgusting. Again, I talked about this in my vlog. My biggest problem with this book and books like it is that we are marketing it as a romance when it should just be marketed as a dark erotica or a dark love story, because this is not romantic. Okay? Now, you can argue, Julia, you just don't like dark romance. Okay, fair. But I've read Haunting Adeline. Okay? And I have read many other dark romances. Why is this one not hitting then? Why is this one not hitting? Oh, because the consent line just seems to really blur. And I'm supposed to believe that Blakely is okay with 90% of this. Because here's the thing. She gets dressed one day and he tells her to change. And she says, oh, fuck you, I'm not changing. He literally rips off her clothes, ties her up, fucks her, and then burns the outfit she was wearing. And she gets mad, but is like kind of into it. But I'm like, yeah, you're into it because you're a rich girl and you can go replace that skirt or whatever. But like, she is like, okay, I'm into it. Okay, fine. But then you literally is saying that he put a tracker in you. And I can't remember if she knows about that or not. And then he's fucking with her birth control without her knowing. He's fucking with her medical shit without her knowing. Because I guess here's the thing. Even though I want children, I recognize that not everyone does. How dare you force that on someone? Because I can't remember if she wants children or not. And I don't think they've discussed it, clearly, because no communication is happening. The only thing that's happening is sex. And that's coming from me, the smut queen. Again, I want to go back. I don't know why. I want to go back and reread this. Because I just feel like maybe I wasn't getting the vibe. Okay? And I can recognize that. But also, I already kind of had the ick at the first go, because these Chosen, here's the other thing that I was getting the ick with. The Chosen are not told the rules, the stipulations, they're not told that their lives basically are forfeit because Riot tells her, oh yeah, sometimes the pledges go too far and they kill their chosen. Okay. So no one tells them this. They just think that it's fun, little hazing fun, and they go and sign their lives away to just be fucked for half a year.
He said, like, dirty, disgusting things he wanted to do to me.
Maybe I shouldn't read this. If you're going to write something like, and I think this is what it has to do with bad writing, I would not have a problem with this book if you explained to me, the reader, and the protagonist, that there are rules to this. Like, if you want to write it that they don't know what's into it and they're just these fucking like they're just like these girls that throw caution in the wind and adrenaline junkies and they don't care, like, that's fine. Okay. But Blakely's not written like that at all. You don't know anything about Blakely. You don't even know what she's majoring in. The bitch is in college. All you know is that she's rich, she's got a big ass and big tits, and that she's going to be forced to marry some guy named Matt, who she doesn't want to marry. That's all you know. And I'm genuinely serious when I say that. You don't know anything about Blakely. And Riot and Blakely don't know anything about each other. And I think I did get to the point where they said that they loved each other, and I was like, do you? I don't know if this is love. If you're going to write something like this, you have to do it better. Because this is 600 fucking pages, by the way, of just straight sex. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to read 600 pages of just straight sex. I'll read 60 pages of sex, sure. But not 600 fucking pages. Like, I call myself the smut queen, and sometimes I'm like, am I? Because, like, a lot of the times I'm arguing with that there's too much smut and shit. But I think I like smut when it's appropriately placed. And I love the graphicness of it. I love it. I live for it. Tell me all about the heat and the folds and everything. Tell me all about it. I love that shit. I eat it up. But not for 600 fucking pages. Because it's not like the positions change or the circumstances change. No. I mean, the biggest, weirdest one that happened was he put something in her room after putting cameras everywhere. He put a little thing like Alice in Wonderland, like, drink me. She fucking drank it, was knocked the fuck out, and he came into her house and had sex with her. Which, again, that is her fantasy, or one of them. That's fine. But my logical brain is like, that could have been from anyone. You assumed it was from Riot. What if it was from someone else? But that's the thing. You don't get those inner thoughts from Blakely like that, of like, even if it was someone else, that like, oh, I just don't care. Like, I want to die. Like, something like that. Give me something like that. Because how can you just have no agency about yourself that you're just like, yeah, I'll just be fucking limp for a couple hours and anyone can do whatever they want to me? Listen, good for you, but it couldn't be me. I'm so angry because I wanted to love it. So I'm going to finish this year. And if it's on my worst books of the year again this year, you'll know that I finished it again. And I fucking actually hated it. All right, I turned some light on because it's getting dark out. So we've got some light going on. Also, look at my cute little Disney ears. Anyway, okay, so next up on the most disappointing books of the year is... Most of my disappointing books of the year are a shock. They're just a shock to me that I have to talk about them. What happened? Scarlet Baby, what happened? Listen, I will forever read whatever you write. Forever. I'll eat it up. What happened? What happened? So, my best books of the year had Touch of Darkness and Game of Fate, Game of Retribution on them. My worst, these are not my worst books, but my most disappointing books are these two books from the series. what happened? So if you don't know, Touch of Darkness is a Hades Persephone retelling, and it is about the love story of Hades and Persephone, obviously. What culminates throughout the series is a war of the gods, because everyone like wants Hades and Persephone to not be together. And it's basically spearheaded by her mother, Demeter. This book, so the series is broken up into, there are four, but the first 3 books are in Persephone's point of view only. Then you have Game of Fate and Game of Retribution that are in Hades' point of view, which in my argument is, or in my mind, are the better of the books. Then you get to this one. This is the 3rd book in Hades' POV, but it also has multiple POVs. It has like Hades, it has Dionysus, I think it has Ariadne, I don't think it has Persephone. There are way too many fucking POVs in this book. Not to mention, I can't even tell you what happened in this book. I just know it was in Hades' POV and it was supposed to expand the plot, but there was just a lot of like unneeded chapters in here. So then when we get to this book, which is in Persephone's POV and Hades' POV and Dionysus' POV and Ariadne's POV, when I tell you the amount of POVs in this book, there's also Theseus' POV. I didn't like this one as much as I want. And like, it's so sad because this one has such a beautiful special edition one. Hold on. Has such a beautiful, stunning special edition cover. I think my issue with this series is that, once again, there was way too much smut. Like, and that's coming from me. Hades and Persephone have this trope, which I think is a realistic thing that like people can do, where they just have sex to make up arguments. Like they have sex to like make up. But the problem is that when you have sex to make up, then you need to make up, and I don't want to hear about that fucking argument again. But that's the problem. Their love story doesn't ever really get better in terms of their maturity in love. Like, they will argue about something. Hades will be like, ooh, I miss you so much, give me the and she's like, no, but then like she gets on this dick anyway. And then they never actually discuss what they're angry about. And then 5 seconds later, Hades is pissing her off again. I think the reason I loved Hades' POV more is you got to see a lot of his point of view and why he was doing things and understanding why he was doing things, because he's a dumb man. And then Persephone calling him out on his shit and how he had to grapple with that. I think I liked that POV more because he did have to sit with some things. And there were moments where she's like, no, I'm not sleeping with you because I'm angry with you. And then, like, of course, like 5 minutes later she would, but the point was that the attempt was made. But also, like, I never felt like Hades and Persephone actually were that good for each other. Like, I felt their connection, absolutely. But there was never a point where I was like, are these two ever going to get any fucking better? Are they ever going to actually, like, figure their shit out? Because when you get to this book and all the POVs that are in it, they definitely are not the main characters anymore. It's just, it feels like they took a back seat. Their love story took a back seat. And it just feels like there's just a lot of things happening, but nothing's happening. So these are very disappointing to me because I think the only reason that this last book got a higher rating than what I originally rated it is because of this bonus chapter in the Barnes & Noble edition, which was so... I cried. I loved it so much. That was the only reason that it got a better rating than I originally was going to rate it, which I think I was going to rate it like 3 stars, 2.5. So it got like 3.5 stars because of that bonus chapter. But here's the thing. If that bonus chapter didn't exist, girl. So I'm really disappointed. I feel like that the story just, I feel like that Scarlett didn't know like how to wrap this series up. And to be quite honest, I know she has said in a lot of like her posts and everything that she was going through a lot while writing these books. And you can tell, especially in this one, I was so bored. And like, if you know the expression, if you're a writer, if you know the expression, like people, when they're reading your work, they can tell if you're passionate about what you're writing. So true. Because I can tell that she was not passionate about writing this. And I think she even said at one point, I think I read like a post where she was like, I'm not jiving with this book. And I'm not feeling it. And so I think it took longer. So I get it. Like, I get it. And I will give it so much grace for that. I still love the series, but you can tell. You can tell that they were like a struggle to get through on her end. And they were definitely a struggle to get through on my end. And that sucks. However, the good thing is that the series isn't over. We'll be having Aphrodite and Hephaestus' story here soon. I think this year, maybe next year. I am so fucking excited. And we're going to have little cameos from Hades and Persephone. Bet your fucking ass up. I am so ready, and I'm going to reread these. So that's going for it. Like, it's not like the series ended on such a horrible note, but yeah, pretty disappointed. All right, now we are officially into the section of my literal just worst books of the year. There's no disappointment. They're just the worst. And we're going to start with a mention that I don't have fucking physically, because the moment I finished that book, I yeeted it into the sun. And that is Never Lie by Frida McFadden. What the fuck was this book? I did a reading vlog on it. It was probably like the best reading vlog I've done. You haven't seen it yet because I haven't posted it, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be one of the most proud productions I've ever put out, because what the fuck? I actually ended up, it's so funny, I vlogged reading it, but then I actually did like a sit down where I just tell you the entire plot of the book. That's how angry I was. And it's so horrible because I thought for the first like 40%, maybe 50, that I was enjoying the book and I was loving it. It took me talking to my husband and telling him what it was about, because he read the first chapter and said, fuck this, and DNF'd it. The first chapter. And I was like, you can't DNF after the first chapter. I wish I fucking had. I wish I had DNF'd it in the first chapter, because that book was so stupid and didn't make any sense. I'm not going to spoil it for you here. If you want to be spoiled, go watch the vlog. But when I tell you it didn't make any sense, it just didn't. The book is about a psychologist by the name of Adrian something. Doesn't matter. The book starts off in present day with this woman named Patricia and her husband, Ethan. And they're buying this house where the psychologist disappeared from. She used to live in this house. And all of her shit is still there. All of her furniture, whatever. And the police never figured out what happened to her. And during the events of this book, Patricia is figuring out what happened to this psychologist and like why weird things are happening in the house. And when I fucking tell you, I was so angry in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. I was a little aggravated in the beginning, but in the middle and in the end, I was just angry. And when like the big reveal was revealed to me,
I think I'm gonna throw up.
I wasn't like gooped. I wasn't shocked. I was just like, what? I'm sorry, what? And not because Frida wrote the book so well that I just couldn't see it coming. No, because it didn't make any fucking sense at all. If I went back to read that book, because any thriller, in my opinion, that you read, you should be able to go back after learning the big woo. You should know, there should be little hints that you can go, ooh, yeah. No, there was none of that. In fact, there were points where there was contradictions to the big reveal. That's all I want to say. Watch the vlog. If you would like to, I'll link it down below. If it's posted, I'll link it down below. It's not even made yet, but go watch the vlog when it's released. Okay. I will link it down below when it's posted. Because I just can't understand how this was even written. The next book in my worst books of the year, it's only in worst books of the year because it was honestly just meh. If I could make like my most meh books of the year, maybe I'll do that. My most meh books of the year, this would go in it. It's Layla by Colleen Hoover. I gifted this to a friend right after reading it. It was so, like, you had me in the first like 30% and then you lost me. It was really slow in the beginning, I'll give you that. But it was just So we're following this couple, Layla and Nick. I don't even remember his name. We're gonna call him Nick. We're following Layla and Nick, and basically what happens is Layla and Nick, they meet at a wedding party. He's in the band, and they like get together. They have this like really tumultuous, I wouldn't say love affair, but they have this love fest. And they start to get really serious. And unfortunately, Layla gets attacked by one of his exes. And she suffers like horrible mental faculty issues, developmental issues, whatever you want to call them. And so he takes her to where they first met to kind of like help her, I guess, heal. And these paranormal things start happening in this old bed and breakfast that I guess is for sale now. And he wants to buy it and like have them start their life there and maybe start up the bed and breakfast again. And she's just like not into it. But like things start happening where like he'll have told her something and she's like, you didn't fucking tell me that. And then she wakes up in the middle of the night and freaks out and she's not really hungry. Well, see, so she's not really hungry, but then she's like gaining a bunch of weight and she doesn't know how she's gaining weight because she's not hungry. And like just all of these things, like he, left the stove on and he like went upstairs to go check on her and he comes back down and the fucking house is on fire. Like just weird paranormal shit. And again, you had me with that. And then it just took a turn that I was not expecting and did not ask for. Yeah, Layla by Colleen Hoover. Not my thing. All right, we are officially in the home stretch of this video. We only have 2 books left. I'm going to talk about, so out of these 2 books, I can tell you that there is a worst book of the year for me. And if any of my videos have gone up on the channel, I bet you can tell what it is. But we'll get to that one. So the runner-up is the Mortal Instruments series, The City of Bones. Here's the thing. I feel like all these come with a caveat, but this book is terrible. It is awful. It is YA, so it's not my demographic. But here's the thing. We had Mystify the Night. I think I already put her back. That is YA that I loved and ate up. There are many YA books that I have read that I loved. This is not it, sweets. It's not it. Here is also the thing. I went into this after watching Carrie Can Read's plot summary video to like get me to read it because I talk about it in the vlog that I do for this, that my husband and I really missed out on the whole like Fallen Angel era, the whole Divergent era, I read Twilight, but like we did not read the same books as our peers back in the day when we were younger. He really wasn't really a reader, and I was reading much more advanced books than a teenage 13-year-old probably should have been, but that's thanks to my dear mama handing me a Sherilyn Kenyon book at the age of like 12. Anyway, here's the thing. This book is not only terrible, but the author is terrible. And I went into this knowing a few things about the author, and then I went to go research her some more. I will link Rachel Reed's video down below. She does a whole in-depth analysis on Cassandra Clare. She put in the work and she deserves her flowers for that. I kind of wish that I hadn't have read or researched some of Cassandra Clare's stuff before reading this, because it definitely colored my reading experience in a very bad way. However, it didn't color it too much because the book is terrible. It's bad. Okay, I stopped filming to have dinner because I was a little hungry and I hadn't eaten all day. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. This is about Clary Frey, short for Clarissa. So Clary is living her normal teenage life when she goes to a club called Pandemonium with her friend Simon, which, why is a teenager at a club? I don't know. Anyway, she goes to Pandemonium and she has an encounter with these creatures called shadow hunters, which are basically children of angels or humans made into angels to fight demons. And so she discovers that not only is her mother a shadow hunter, but that kind of means that she has abilities too. But her mom's been keeping all these secrets from her, and come to find out, that she's pulled into a world equal to that of Hogwarts, okay? So I talk about this in my vlog, and the story goes, it's very much like Harry Potter. Clary, Harry, you know, Hodge, who's the leader of the Institute, which is Hogwarts, is Dumbledore. Valentine is Voldemort. Jace, the main love interest, is just Draco Malfoy. The problem with this book is that it's just literally Harry Potter with a new coat of paint. And I listened to the audiobook. Everyone has a British accent, never explained. I watched the movie, which, to be fair, the movie is pretty good for what it is. Everyone has a British accent. Why? Still don't know. The show was awful. My husband and I couldn't even get through the first episode of the Shadowhunters, the show. It was terrible. Here's the thing. The concept... I can't even say that. I was going to say the concept of this is great. The execution is just poor. No. The concept of this is Clary is a wizard. Okay? She's a wizard, Clary.
You're a wizard, Harry.
And she is fighting against Voldemort, who killed her mom. And then her friends are just Ron Weasley, Hermione, Draco, respectively. You've got some Star Wars incest in here. If you know, you know. They use wands instead of steles. Or I'm sorry, they use stels or steles instead of wands. They draw sigils instead. It's just, I would say, okay, I was trying to say, like, the concept of this sounds really cool. The fucking muggles are just called mundanes.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And the creatures that are not fallen angels are called downworlders. Which I don't think is from Harry Potter, but it's just like a slur, basically. There is a lot of like racism in this book as far as like the different races of creature. To the point where Clary even points out that in a crowded cafe full of other downworlders, she's like, so they're good enough to cook for you, flirt with, you know, help you fight, but they're not good enough to like be friends with or whatever. And she's saying this in front of like a bunch of other downworlders, and Jace is like, maybe we shouldn't be having this conversation right now. Like, she's actively Clary for president trying to fight racism. There are so many reviews and people out there that have done more research than I have that you can go watch to understand why this series is awful. There's one Goodreads review that sticks out in my mind that I go back and read every so often, which basically just says, this series is a culmination of Harry Potter, Star Wars, Star Trek. There were a few others. Lord of the Rings in an aspect. Doctor Who, maybe? I don't know. There's so many. I'm sure you'll find it. It's a long one. There are so many issues with this book. And it's basically just plagiarized. I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series. My husband really wants me to. And I technically did vlog this, but I don't know if I can put myself through it, fam. I don't know if I can put myself through it. Carrie can read, probably her plot recaps are going to come in handy for me. So, yeah. Mortal Instruments. Do not recommend. However, if you want your kid to read this, or if you've got like a teenager and like you just want them to read something for the summer, give them this. They won't care. All right. The last, but certainly not least, actually it is the least because it's my least fucking favorite book of all time on this list, probably ever, is Miss fucking Throne of Glass. Now I know you're probably all shocked because you're like, Julia, your best book of the year was Crescent City. I know. Oh, I know. Don't deny that that's my best book of the year. But I'm also not saying that Sarah J. Maas won with this one. Give her flowers for Crescent City, but give her a fucking lump of coal for this. This is actual trash. And before anyone comes to me and is like, Julia, Sarah J. Maas wrote this when she was 16 years old. She was just a baby. She didn't know what she was doing back then. I know. Okay? I got it. I get it. So I will give it some grace for that. Some. Not a lot. Because here's the thing. This book is horrible. It's fucking horrible. Here's the thing. It is written like Like, I think there's a picture of Sarah J. Maas at 16 years old back here. This book is written like it is someone's debut novel. It is written like someone wrote this at a very young age and then didn't edit it at a older age. Here's the saddest part about this, okay? How much I hate this. My husband wanted to read these. And we went out literally, we didn't know actually what was happening. We went out right before these covers were going out of commission. And we were going to buy the entire box set of these for $50 on Amazon, and we didn't do it. And I won't say that I regret it because I hate this book. But we have the first 4 books in these old covers and then the last books in the new covers. And I hate the new covers. If anything, I love these covers. So if anyone's got some of these covers they want to get rid of, I will take them for him, not for me, but for him. Why do I hate this? Why is this my worst book of the year over fucking Never Lie? Because, Lord, I hate this book so much because I feel like I was lied to. I feel like I was punked. And I feel like I hate this so much more because there's so many people that try to gaslight you into reading a whole nother book before you read this one to understand this one. And I have thoughts about that. We'll get to that. So what is this book even about? Why do I hate it so much? This book is about Selena Sardotham. She is an assassin, okay? And Selena is, in the start of the book, she is imprisoned in the Andover work mines. She was sent there because she was captured, because she's an assassin. I think she was sold out or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. She is sent there by the king. And then a few years later, after being beaten, abused, like worked to death with all these other people, after trying to escape many times, the crown prince, the king's father, comes and tells her, hey, if you participate in these trials to become the king's champion, you can basically earn your freedom. You'll have to work for my father, but you won't have to be here anymore. Okay, so she accepts this. But here's the thing. His father sent her here. And you're telling me that he wants her to be his personal assassin? No, he doesn't. He doesn't know anything about this. In fact, he's pissed when Dorian, the crown prince, brings her to his courtroom and is like, what the fuck is she doing here? And he's like, oh, she's going to take part in your trials. What? For what and for why? So what ends up happening is she meets this man named Kale. She's got Kale and Dorian. Kale is her personal guard. Her personal captor, basically. She has other guards, but like he's the main one that watches over her, I guess. And he helps her with the trials. So basically they go to the palace. Kale's real mean to her. Dorian doesn't really talk to her, all this stuff. So we go to the castle. We talk about the trials. She gets her own room. When you think of a master assassin, because she's like 18 years old, I think, at the start of this book. When you think of a master assassin, what do you think of? Do you think of like the assassins in Assassin's Creed? Do you think of like actual assassins that know what they're doing? Because I know I do. In fact, the person I was thinking of when I read this book, the reason I wanted to read it so badly is because I was in the mood for like a sexy, charming, like roguish assassin that was like maybe sarcastic, witty, you know, kind of mysterious. I was in the mood for that vibe. Master assassin vibe like that. What I got was this watered down Timu teenage version that has a candy addiction and loves fancy dresses and being pretty.
I may be dead, but I'm still pretty.
Okay, and then we get this really bizarre love triangle between her and Kale and Dorian, even though, and when I say that they literally have only spoken to each other a couple times, I mean that quite literally. She wants to be, she's got a big crush on Dorian, but oh my god, if she's like with Dorian, she'll have to kill him, even though her plan is to kill him anyway. But then she also likes Kale, but he's mean to her. Okay, so then you learn like some more about her backstory, sort of, I guess. Then you meet this other character, like this princess or whatever. The only person of color in this book, I'll have you know. And we'll get to that because I think she's the only person of color that dies. But you start to get this mystery, okay? Because here's the thing about the trials. There nowhere is it stated that the contestants can't kill each other, okay? Because it's like the Hunger Games. But nowhere is it said that they can't kill each other. So you would think, okay, the contestants are probably killing each other off because some contestants are dying. Well, no, apparently that's not what's happening, even though that's clearly, definitely what's happening. But they have to go through all this training and all this stuff to go through these trials. And here's where the problem is. You know, in the Hunger Games, which I also just read last year for the first time, in the Hunger Games, it tells you about the trials. It tells you about the games. Okay, you're with Katniss through the games. With Selena, there's no actual games. It's literally just tests, okay? There's one test where she has to make sure she doesn't drink something that's poisoned. It's like a poison test. Or label all the poisons or something, and she's like this master assassin, so she knows all the poisons. And then there's another one where they have to climb up a mountain or something, and there's one where they have to run. I don't know. The point is, I don't know what determines who is eliminated and who isn't, because the book never tells me. We go through at least like 4 trials where you are not with Selena during them. She's just like, oh yeah, that trial happened a month ago and nothing happened. Or, oh, that trial happened and someone died, but there's only a couple of us left and whatever. It's like the equivalent of in Fourth Wing when like Violet tells you that several months have passed and nothing happened and like nobody died. But you know that that can't fucking be true because those people in Fourth Wing can kill each other, and they do. When I tell you, so there's a mystery afoot of why the contestants are being killed off and all this stuff. Something about word stones or something like that. And figuring that out. And then there's a talking doorknob at one point. I don't fucking know. She finds a dog. Whatever. The point is, I don't care. Okay. I also hate this book so much is that when the villain is revealed, when I tell you I had the biggest non-reaction I have ever probably had, I was so bored reading this, you guys. I was listening to the audiobook because I could not actually physically bother to pick this up anymore. It was like Sarah J. Maas, when she did her plot line, she literally was like, okay, and then like went bloop and skipped a part because it just doesn't make any sense. So when the villain is revealed, not only could you have probably argued you could have seen it coming, I didn't see it coming because I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. Like, it's one thing for me to say like, oh, I didn't see that coming because it's such a cool twist. No, I didn't see it coming because I didn't care enough to fucking look that far into it. And then when I really did think about it, I was like, that's the stupidest, most obvious thing I've ever heard in my life. A lot of people have told me that you need to read To Heir of Fire, the 4th book, before the series gets good. It's bad enough when you tell me I have to read the first 300 pages of any book for it to get good. I'm not reading 4 fucking books for the series to get good. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Then you're telling me that book 4 should have been book 1. Because I did start Crown of Midnight, the 2nd book, and I have to argue that Crown of Midnight should have been the 1st book. This book didn't need to exist. This book could have been like, whoop. It didn't need to be here. I'm not even joking you. Crown of Midnight should have been the 1st book. Because Crown of Midnight sets up Selena to have this backstory of this book. This book is just backstory. That's all it is. And you go through that book, this should have been the backstory that you're explaining to me. And then Assassin's Blade should have been the backstory to this backstory. Here's the thing. Assassin's Blade is apparently a prequel novella. It's huge. This book. So Assassin's Blade is apparently a prequel novella full of how many stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories of Selena's life before this book. Okay? And a lot of people like to argue. A lot, and I mean a lot, like to argue that you have to read this book first. SJM apparently just came out with a suggested reading order. I don't think you're supposed to read this until after book 4. As a writer, as an author, any writing coach, any masterclass will tell you that to have good writing is to tell me the character's misbelief. What is the character's internal conflict? What are they struggling with at the beginning of the story that they need to overcome by the end of the story? Okay? So you have to show me why their internal conflict matters to me to get to the end of the story, because their internal conflict and your theme should be what the story is about. Okay? You are not going to fucking tell me that I'm going to read about her internal conflict for this book in this book. That's not how writing works. So people like to argue that you have to read this book first to understand Selena and understand her backstory, understand why she is the way she is in this book and her motivations in this book. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. I'm actually not sorry. Unpopular opinion, but I will no. I will not read this book. If you want to write a story, if you want to write good characters, you have to show me why their motivations and their internal conflict matters. And then you tell me their backstory about how they came to be who they are. That's how you do it. Don't show me their internal conflict in a whole nother book. That defeats the purpose. And that's probably why I hate this book so much. I don't know Selena's motivations in this book because I guess they're in this book. Selena has zero motivations in this book except to kill Dorian. But that, I'm sorry, is not enough to get me to read this story because she doesn't even follow through with that because she gets a crush on him. So many people get angry at others who say like, you don't need to read Assassin's Blade because you don't. You do not write a story of backstory before you write your actual book. That doesn't make any fucking sense because apparently there are characters in this book that come into play in like, I guess the last couple books. Okay. Show me and tell me why they matter in the story, not this fucking novella. Because guess what? If she had never written this, if she had never wrote this book, guess what? Y'all wouldn't have this. So the story would still be shit. I mean, this is the thing. People don't realize that Sarah J. Maas didn't have to write this. My theory is she wrote this because she knew that little baby her, when she first debuted this book was not good. And so she wrote this to make it good. Which, okay, fine. Like, you were a baby author. You recognized that it was weird. You didn't really know how to fix it. You wanted to make your series good, so you wrote this. I'm not arguing that she wrote this. This is fine. Like, she didn't have to write this, though. If she hadn't written this book would still be bad. Okay? This book would still be fucking bad. So she wrote this for y'all to make this good. But that still doesn't negate that the book is bad. The thing is, my husband actually did start with this book because he thought this was the first book. And then he realized, no, it's not. And actually, you know what's so funny? He got halfway through this and he realized that and he was like, okay, that makes sense because I'm not having a good time in this book. Oh, he literally was like, he kept this in his car for I think like 4 months. He's like, yeah, at some point I just got bored and like, I just didn't care and I didn't understand why we were doing it and it just didn't make sense. And then he realized that they were just a bunch of short stories. But he's like, yeah, this was not interesting. And he's like, I don't understand why I need this. And he didn't even realize this. He thought this was the first book. So he was like, yeah, this was weird. So again, from someone being like, yeah, you have to read this for the first book. No, you don't, because clearly it doesn't matter. All that to say is I hate that book. And I think I hate it more because of that, like, attachment to it. Because people just come for you for that type of stuff. And it's just so dumb. Read however you want. If you want to read the prequel before you read book one, go right ahead. I don't care. That is my worst books of the year. My worst and most disappointing books of the year. It was quite a tumultuous 2 years. I read a lot in 2023, did not read a lot in 2024. My hope is to read a lot in 2025, but I am not sure. I have a lot of books that I did start in 2024 and did not finish, like the City of Bones series, The Ritual. There are so many things that like I'm kind of like, I want to finish this series and these books, and you know, and then all these like anticipated releases that are coming out, so I want to read those. So I've got a lot that's coming up, but I don't know if I'll be reading them, so we will see. But thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're so fantastic listening to me ramble. I will be posting these this month. I have to, or it just doesn't make any sense. So that'll be something, but there will be other videos incoming. but just to let you know, they're like from the vault, okay? But there will be more videos in the future as well, new updated videos. Right now I'm reading Zodiac Academy because I hate myself, I guess. But if there's any books you want to see me read, have any recommendations, please leave them down below. I am always open to suggestions. And yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye!